So we are recording. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Oncology Spa Solutions webinar series. I hope this finds you well on this beautiful Friday somewhere in the world, because we do get people. I've actually had some people from Australia as well. We've got Canada, Trinidad. So we've got people from all over that are joining us for these wonderful learning times. So today, I'm going to introduce you to Courtney. So I'm going to go ahead and do the little screen share here. And we'll get started. So let's see, here's technical stuff, you know, I'm getting there. All right, so today we're going to talk about, I called it psych success just because it sounded good to me. Courtney didn't say that, but I think she's very successful, and you guys are going to love getting to hear from her today. She is an esthetician and an instructor and a CAO, so Chief Administrative Operator, from the Southeastern Aesthetics Institute in South Carolina. So we're going to start with what are we going to cover today? We're going to do our weekly check-in. I love to check in with you guys and see how you're doing. We're going to talk a little bit more specifically today in our industry updates about the COVID-19 issue and how it impacts us in the spa, because this question is coming to me all the time. We're going to get to meet Courtney and hear all about her school and her success. We're going to go over what's coming up in the upcoming webinars, and I'm going to do a quick poll today because a lot of you are going back to work, so I want to find out what time frame works for you all. So our weekly check-in, how you doing, okay? I hope you are staying positive, and I hope that you're focusing on the good. And when I was talking to somebody the other day, they go, okay, that sounds great, but what is good? And you know, it was through the course of the conversation that we talked, we found many things that were good in that person's life, and sometimes we just don't see it because we're not focusing on it. So, you know, there's a lot of science and a lot of things out on the web and on the internet right now, but one of the people, I'm going to refer back to Robin Sharma again, the book that I'm reading, the 5 a.m. Club. He had a whole list of wonderful things that are happening to the world right now because of this time frame. So it seems like it might not be good, but there's really a lot of good happening. So it's in the stillness and downtime that we can really tap into our creativity, as well as healing and transforming our lives. So use this time for that. And, you know, leading to that, have you started with any new habits or noticed any changes since you've been home? It's kind of funny watching, I mean, because it's been 10 weeks. And, you know, I'm looking at my husband, who I didn't get to see that often in the past, but I'm getting to see him every single day, right? And his hair is growing. He's getting this long hair now. And I'm like, I look at him and go, who are you? And then not only that, he has pulled out and tapped into this new talent of his that I think he always had, which is baking and making food. So needless to say, it's been fabulous, okay? And I've enjoyed it. There's a little bit of his pie left that he made the other day. He made a peach apple pie. I never even heard of that before, and it was fabulous. And because of that, now none of my pants fit, so I'm into yoga pants from now on until I can lose that weight. More quality time with family and loved ones. You know, if your schedule was anything like mine prior to this, I didn't get to see my family all that much. I end up missing a lot of family events and a lot of things, which has really made me stop and think about planning my future. When we get back to normal life, am I going to live the way that I lived before, or am I going to make some changes? And I'll tell you what, I am definitely going to make some changes. I'm going to spend more time and quality time with people and with the people that I know and love, and especially my family. I've heard from many people commenting on how much they love family dinner. That it's been years since they've been able to have a family dinner together, and now they have it every day. So that connection with your family and is so, so important, guys. So I hope you're taking the time and enjoying that. Now, on the flip side of that, I'll tell you, I've talked to a lot of you who are moms, who have kids at home, who are kind of at your, I'm going to say wit's end with so much time with kids that you haven't had before. Again, I'm just going to tell you, this too will pass. enjoy it while you have it, because you will not believe how fast they grow and they'll be gone, and you will really wish for more time like this at home with them. So enjoy it while you have it, okay? And then thinking outside of this box. So right now, what does this box look like to you? Is this box look like, wow, I don't know what's going to happen in the future? Or is it an opportunity for you to go, you know what, let's step outside this box and do something different? Again, you know, yesterday I had a interview. I was interviewed by ASCP, and we were talking about some industry things. And Tracy Donnelly said that she really believes that this time is going to be an amazing time for our industry, because she, as like me, has heard from so many of you that are coming up with great new ideas and doing new and different things. Not only that, I believe that our clients really have come to the conclusion that we are an essential service, because they miss us and they cannot wait till we come back. So that's a really good thing as well. So hope, you know, that's my word. So here we go. What does hope do? Hope sparks faith. And faith brings creativity and confidence in our life. And confidence leads to joy, right? So all of those things are good and positive things. It's just a little trail, but you got to start with hope. Okay, so be hopeful and be looking with faith forward to what your future is going to look like, you guys. It's going to be amazing. So what's happening with COVID-19? What are we learning? You know, the news and the CDC even, almost every other day comes out with something a little bit new, a little bit different. But what does it mean in regards to the spa? What is it going to mean for us when we go back to our treatment rooms? So some of the things I want to just review first. How is it transmitted? This one was on the CDC website, so I want to use everything that comes directly from that source. It is transmitted airborne, guys, through coughing, sneezing, or talking. And that's where the 6 feet came in, the social distancing for 6 feet, because when we cough, sneeze, and sometimes even when we talk, especially emphatically, that can go 6 feet out or a little bit less than that. So at 6 feet, you are safe, right? So there's another good reason to wear a mask. The secondary way of transmission is what they call fomite transmission, which means from a surface that is contaminated. So somebody who had COVID-19 touched a surface and then, and or sneezed, coughed on it, whatever. So, and those are things that are a little bit more in line with what we do. We need to make sure that we're cleaning all of our surfaces. It's only active about 3 days on plastic or steel. And they say it disintegrates in a matter of hours. So within 2 to 3 hours, it starts to disintegrate the particles. So it's not as potent, but it's still potent, okay, up to 3 days. But that's, if we're cleaning after each person comes in, we're not gonna have to worry about that at all. We're gonna make sure that we are clean. There was a video that went viral, and I don't know if any of you saw it, but they took some, a liquid, and they put it on the person, one person's hand at a table in a buffet. And then they had that person and everybody else at their table went through the buffet, the food buffet, and then they sat down and they ate their meal. And at the end, they took a blue light and they could see where all that started on one person's hand ended up. It was interesting. It was on somebody's shoulder. It was on somebody's face. It was on all of their utensils. It was on the plate. It was on the table. It was on the water glasses. So again, just a good way of letting you see how this works, which is why we need to be on top of our game when it comes to cleaning and sanitizing everything. If I had stock, or if I was creative, I would probably have stock in all of these hands-free pieces of equipment, because I think it's going to be the way the spa is going to need to go. Nothing should be touched by you and then touching a client and back to that particular container, okay? So we're hearing a lot about no jars, which we talked about before, and having as many hands-free things that you can available, okay? And yeah, it's all over the internet. You can find them anywhere, including one of those touch-free garbage cans in your treatment room, because you don't want to touch the garbage. And for me in the hospital, and it really is probably the same everywhere in a spa, whatever we dispose of has to be covered. So it has to have a lid on it. So how do you do that without having to touch anything, right? And I know in school we have the little ones where you hit it with your foot, but they also have these. You just wave over it, it opens, and you can put your garbage in, and it closes right after you're done. So hand washing. Are you guys sick of hearing that? Yes, but we need to do it very, very often. So in between every single client, if we touch anything other than our client when we're working on them, we probably need to wash our hands again before we touch them again. Cleaning and disinfecting our surfaces. So cleaning means actually warm or hot water and soap. Okay, you clean that surface first, and then you use a disinfectant wipe, leaving it on according to manufacturer's directions. And guys, that's usually about 10 minutes. So if you are just wiping something and think you're done, you're not really doing a great job of cleaning and disinfecting an area. So let's up our game, okay? This is especially important when you're working with a cancer patient, somebody who has a compromised immune system. One of the things we were talking about yesterday with Tracy was, you know, she said, you're probably already doing all of these things, which we are, right? Because we're teaching you how to work with somebody who's compromised already anyway. But let's step up our game, and let's make sure that we're also letting everybody know. Which brings me to that new consent form. ASCP has one. They're rolling a new one out on Monday. And what she said was that this form will actually be a little bit better protection for you. However, just so that you know, and this was news to me, not one insurance company, not one, will cover you if a client feels like they got COVID from you or your location. You're not covered, okay? So we need to do everything that we can, and having the proper consent form is a great step, okay? It's just one more layer in the protection for you. So make sure that you check out ASCP, new consent form that will be available on Monday. And if you're not an ASCP member, maybe you're insured through somebody else and you would like a copy of this form, send me an email and I will send it to you once it's available, okay? Make sure we're posting our client and employee policies and expectations. So if you have somebody else that you're working with, they need to be on board with you with the new cleaning, disinfecting, and all of the things that we're talking about today. Okay, and then make sure that your clients know this room has been cleaned. This room is cleaned in between each person. So yeah, duh, we know we've always done that, but let's tell our clients that now. Okay, let's make sure they know that we're doing it. It's important for them for trust and for them to possibly choose your location versus another one, right? That might be posting it or explaining it a little bit better. From what I'm understanding, we are still going to have to be taking temperatures before people enter our facility, or we should be, and employees, okay? So make sure you have a hands-free thermometer that you can use for that. Again, Amazon, Walgreens, Walmart, pretty much everybody has them. How about making sure that we're using as many disposables as possible so that anything that touches our client gets thrown away, okay? And yes, that's going to be a little bit higher cost of goods and our cost of service. So make sure you plan accordingly for that. Having extra uniforms. So this is something that keeps coming up as well. Whatever you wear in a setting where you are coming in contact with other people has to be removed. I don't know if you can remove it before you get into your car, but definitely before you get home, it needs to be washed and or aired or dried for 3 days, or washed and dried with a hot water and hot sanitizer in your dryer, drying completely. And that's the laundry policy. So hottest water that you can, using the proper cleansing, sanitizing, disinfecting, bleach, and make sure the clothes are completely dry. So if that's not something that you have done in the past, make sure that you have that as a policy. And then again, make sure that it's posted somewhere. And that leads me to, because this is different in every single state. And not only is it different in every single state, guys, it is also different in every single county. Okay, so you need to be on top of it. One of the things that was on the news yesterday said, even if you are doing everything that you think that you should be, if you are not following your now state or county guidelines, you will be fined and or license could be removed. Okay, so it's really not worth it. Be on top of it, check it. I have a link right here for ASCP. They have updates by state. And you can click on that, and you don't have to be a member to be able to see that. So it's ASCP skincare updates, blog posts, state updates regarding COVID. It's right on their homepage. So you can just go there, look at it, click on it, and then check your state and see what it's saying. Washington right now is spas fall into phase 3, which they're saying right now is mid-June to late June, sorry. We won't be back in the spa until probably the first weeks of July. Okay, so again, that gives us a little bit more time to get things done. And I know some of your states, you guys are back to work. Okay, but check everything and make sure. This is another one that I liked, which was the American Massage Therapy Association, because we fall in with massage therapists, just FYI, when it comes to the state and government. So we don't get to have the same rules as hairstylists or barbers. We are in with massage. And again, it's a little bit later rollout because we have more close contact with our client, and we're also in a small room. At least that's how it was explained to me. That's why. Okay, so make sure you're on top of things. So, and if you guys have any questions on that, please send me an email. I am, as much as I can, staying on top of this and reaching out to the right people or the right sources so that I can give you the information if you need it. So let me know, okay? And I'd also like to hear from you what's going on in your state, just so I can kind of see as a comparison, is it different than what is being posted on these government sites? Okay, that would be awesome. Thank you so much. All right, so again, you know me, Becky Keene and Oncology Spa Solutions, but I would like to, and I'm super excited to, introduce you to Courtney Sykes today. Courtney and I met a couple of years ago. We were trying to think of this, but I think it's been a couple of years. And she had the great vision of bringing oncology into her school. I got to go to South Carolina and see her school. If you guys have heard me talk about schools in the past, this is one I talk about. This background behind me, Courtney will tell us in a minute what this is, but her school is beautiful. It does not even look like a school. It kind of looks like you're at this beautiful high-end retreat type spa. And can you imagine being a student going to school in a location like that? So I'm gonna stop talking now, and I'm gonna let Courtney talk and tell us a little bit about herself.
All right, guys. Well, welcome. I'm used to being the host, I was telling Becky, so this is really cool. And I don't know any of you. When I do a lot of these talks, I know my students or licensed professionals and all that good stuff, but I'm so excited to meet you guys. And I have a lot to talk about today, so I'm so excited that you're going to get to listen to it. But we're going to talk about success factors. We're going to talk about the history of kind of where aesthetics has been up until now and how I got into what this is today, which is a very busy school. We just finished doing a graduation ceremony today. We have always between 115 and 150 students year round. So it's pretty impressive. So you ready for me to do the big talk, right, Miss Becky?
No, I'm just getting it ready. So your school's up. You keep talking. You just flow it how it works.
You got it. Okay. So if you see some of these pictures, I'll kind of tell you all the good background juice on how I managed to obtain all these suites. We are in downtown Columbia, South Carolina, in an area called the Vista. So I'll get to that in just a moment. But we have a lot of cool things coming up too. So I'll save that towards the end of the talk. But love our facilities for sure. And I love historic buildings. But however, with historic buildings comes all sorts of fun stuff. I don't know about you guys, but we've had rain today. So we always have to call someone out if there's any water that comes in somewhere. But we love our historic buildings, and I love refurbishing those spaces and making them a usable space. And our students love being here for sure. So you ready for me to get going?
Yeah, go ahead and tell us what we're looking at here. What are those pictures?
Yes. So this is what we call our elite campus. So if you were my student today, I would have to give you a huge orientation about our campus here in the Vista in South Carolina. So we call this the Elite Spa. That area is around 5,000 square feet. I'm currently on the 3rd floor now in our administrative office, but this takes up about 5,000 square feet downstairs. On our 2nd floor, of course, we have our Elite extension suite is what we call it. So we have about 3 big suites on 3 floors here in this building. Then across the way, and my wonderful administrator, Erin, is getting my laptop charger. It's over there.
Oh.
Thank you, thank you. So then across the way, we have our main campus, guys, and that is where I first started having the space there. And golly, what is that? That's about 3,000 square feet plus a new upstairs suite over there too, which is an additional 4,000 square feet. And we have a lot going on. Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
As I said, you guys, it does not look like a school, okay? And the fashion, the design, the everything, you can imagine it sets a tone for not only the student, but also the guests that come. And it is in a historical building, and it's right in downtown Columbia. It is absolutely a beautiful location. And you have done such a great job with it.
Thank you so much. This particular campus is our main campus. Golly, since these pictures, we've installed other counters and lots of storage right there on that brick wall. I love lighting. Those chandeliers are way bigger than they look. Giant chandeliers, but we love that space. That's where our first 10 weekers go. So we love it. And even since that, we've actually installed carpet in that space there where those folks are sitting, but that's part of our main campus as well. And in fact, golly, that little wall has been taken down since we've got even more students and a huge influx of folks that come from all over. So now we have a giant lecture space in the main campus. So we have a lot of fun. So
I've asked this question before, but just so that everybody on the call knows, your state does not actually have a master esthetician program. Is that correct? Or does
That's correct. It does not. But I managed, and I'll tell you, I don't know how big and deep you want to get into this, but I managed to get this school nationally accredited a couple years ago by myself before I was married. And it was very difficult, but we managed to also not only get our aesthetics licensure course accredited, but an advanced aesthetics academy accredited as well. We have 2 physicians that work here and oversee all that stuff. And we've got a huge laser downstairs, and we've got so many things going on: microneedling, microblading, dermaplaning, medical peels. And we do all that in South Carolina. For those of you here, everything has to be underneath a physician. So they oversee all that. We can't even teach those procedures here in South Carolina without them being present. So it's really amazing. I'm actually coming in tomorrow for a small group training with some of my girls that are traveling in, and doing a little 2-hour laser chat, because we love our big groups, but I also love our small groups. And I'm sure you agree with this, Becky. You kind of have to give everybody everything. So I love working all days of the week and helping everybody get to where they need to be. It's just my life calling, just like this is yours, you know?
Yeah, it is what we are, and it is what we love. I love that you had the vision to accredit this and actually create an advanced course and location in a state that doesn't even recognize it yet. And with that being said, I'm sure you get people who come from all over the US to your school. So it was great vision. So I have lots of questions for you, and I'm sure that some of the people watching will as well, but I would like to start with, you are an esthetician, just like the majority of the people on this call. So how did you get started in aesthetics? What made you choose that path, and then what made you want to open a school?
Well, I'll tell you what, because I'm an esthetician like all of you ladies and gentlemen maybe that are on this call. It's not just about doing facials all the time or doing lash extensions or being in the treatment room, although I still do all of that too, and I love it. Let's see, where do I want to begin with this? My mother is something called a nurse anesthetist. For any of those of you that know what that is, She always says she passes gas for a living, which is so true. She puts people to sleep in the operating room. So in the 90s, when I was growing up, middle school, high school, she actually took me to all of her trainings. I don't know if any of you are electrologists or do electrolysis still. You know, that's the oldest form of permanent hair removal. But she took me down to Naples, Florida. I went with her to electrology training. I went with her to all the cosmetic injection trainings. She bought lasers and all this kind of stuff. And I grew up around it. I'm actually from a town called Sumter, South Carolina, Becky, which is, you know, about an hour and 15 minutes away from here, but small town. And she opened the first laser center probably in South Carolina at the time, and first woman-owned laser center. And this was in the mid-90s. She started with electrolysis, started buying lasers. And I always tell this story to my students for those of you that are women empowerment, because that's totally what I'm all about. She has always made more money than my father, who is amazing, and he's had a phenomenal job as an engineer here in Columbia. But nonetheless, she actually still in the late 90s had to have a husband figure, secondary person, sign off on her lasers to purchase and take those loans out at a bank. And I have never once had to have anybody help me co-sign on anything. So it just goes to show that women in business is still very, very new, even since the late 90s, early 2000s. And so that's how I got into the business. Did I realize I wanted to do all that then? Probably not. When I got into college years, I actually started out at USC, University of South Carolina, and going to teach kids. I didn't realize that I didn't want to teach children as much, funny enough. Now I like teaching adults, which is super funny thinking back on it, but I switched my major to business management, which is obviously very generic. I will tell you that those very simple things like speech class have totally helped me throughout this career field, accounting, all of that good stuff. But when I was also going through college, I went to aesthetic school because I saw my mother do the same. She actually has been a nurse anesthetist for years, went to esthetician school herself. And golly, I ended up helping her out, of course, at the laser center, and took over her office manager position. And for many of you that own businesses, y'all can appreciate this. She actually had an office manager at the time who was lovely. But if you're not watching who's running your show, they can do things that are going to be detrimental to you. So she actually had an office manager who ran up her American Express bill to $20,000. I helped her reel that back in. We got everything paid off, and we really focused in on what the true goal was for the company. She had around 900 square feet at the time, and we ended up growing it to about 5,000 square feet, hired estheticians. Of course, she had an overseeing physician at the time. She was coming in the afternoons from the OR to see clients for advanced procedures, is what I would call it, injectables, lasers, and things like that. And I learned firsthand how to run a business. And I always tell people this too. When you do things like payroll by hand, you will appreciate the beautiful parts about payroll companies and all these wonderful services we actually do have now. But golly, I was helping her out when you didn't have the online appointment booking systems. You didn't have the social media. We actually had pencils that we would write in people's appointments, right? And then erase them. That's probably not HIPAA compliant, I'm sure, at this point. But I've seen it from childhood all the way up until now. So that's where it got started, Becky, for sure. And golly, I could talk for so long, but I think some of those early years, for those of you that are interested in being educators and really want to, impact people in that way, you have to have stories to tell. I can talk about tons of client interactions, tons of health history items that need to be discussed when you're working on folks. And of course, oncology aesthetics education pairs so well with that. There's just so much. And I love sitting with my mother. She's close to retirement, we would say, and talking about our years that we spent working side by side. And I really miss a lot of that, for sure.
You had a wonderful role model. So you were fortunate in that respect. So you got to be in it very early and kind of see how the workings of a spa works. But so then what made you decide to go from where you were then to an aesthetic school? Because that's a big step and a lot of work.
So my son is 9 years old. His name is Gunnar. He's actually downstairs with his tutor right now. So all you working from home mamas, I promise you can work it out, especially with all the COVID-19 stuff going on. We've managed to figure it out for our staff and for, of course, my son. But anyway, when he was born, Becky, you know how hormones do, and they make you think crazy things. And when you're in your 20s, all of a sudden you think you can do it all. So I saw this need, and I'm sure many of you see a need in the industry, and that's really where it begins, when you're coming up with neat ideas and all of that. So whenever, golly, what were we doing? We must have been trying to hire some good estheticians, Becky. And it was funny because even then you have people that take esthetician classes, but they know nothing about how to work alongside medicine. They didn't at that time. You talk to them about Botox and laser hair removal. They don't need to do the procedures, but they most certainly need to understand how to work alongside physicians, nurses, what file charting is, you know, what HIPAA compliance is, what malpractice insurance means, what you can and can't discuss. And I just saw this need, and I got sick and tired, Becky, of, you know, sitting here and training people. We would put them on a training program for 6 weeks, pay them during this time, may or may not work out, right? You never know. Put them on a 90-day trial period, like you always should, but we would train them and then go into it. When what we really needed, what the company needed, was somebody well-trained from the start. So I just got so fed up. I thought, well, I can do this. There's not a school out there that was teaching anything from an advanced perspective, from a medical perspective, from a scientific and cellular perspective. It was only beautification of the skin. That was it. So I love teaching about histology and, golly, chemistry and all the ingredients. And I just got done this morning. Good Lord, it's been a busy week. We've had students come in this office one by one, every one of them, and they have to do a business project with me. I run them through financial forecasting. I have them sit there and do these client care plans, and I make them talk to me about the why. And then they do home care, ingredient specific, not brand specific, and they have to know their ingredients. So to me, it's not just about, you know, passing your licensing boards. It's about being able to be successful, and I can't put my name on anybody unless they can do just that. So
I think that's really one of the things that makes you different from a lot of other schools, because, you know, they're giving them the basics and they're getting just what they need to pass state boards. And that's kind of the way our industry has worked for a while. And you are actually going beyond that and giving them life skills and tools so that they can actually work, get hired. I think it's just fabulous. So and I've met many of your students, and guys, they really are, I'm going to stay a step above, because they're getting a different type of training and they know it. They're a lot more confident. I love that. Why did you want to bring in oncology? Like, why were you open to that? Was it the medical aspect of it, the compassion part of it? What stood out to you?
Well, for sure, all of the above, but, you know, in many ways, I'm very competitive. I'm sure, like many of you that own your own businesses and are in business, you have to constantly be evolving. You cannot just teach the same aesthetics program year after year after year. So what I love about the fundamental items of aesthetics is that there's always something new coming out. So even when we were doing graduation this morning, I told Becky, I said, we talked you up. I said your name and your awesome, you know, company that you have, and the respect that you clearly have amongst all your viewers and listeners in oncology aesthetics. But we love sending people off with certifications. So for microchanneling, radiofrequency skin tightening, we do a ton of lash extension stuff here. We're launching even more levels of lash training around here. So oncology aesthetics has been a huge topic that I've been asked about for years. And it is such a huge thing that you have to know. And before Becky was wonderfully featured in the new Milady textbook, I love that. So many people had questions, you know, and I love bringing something in like that. That makes people feel, makes estheticians feel like they understand how to treat a cancer patient, you know, that they understand what that person's feeling, They might not be someone that's an expert in that field necessarily, but you have to know enough to be compassionate, be there to touch the client, to just make them feel good, and just as though it's just about them. So I love that about your training, Becky, and I recommend it to everybody.
I love that you mentioned you're competitive, because that's something that a lot of people in our industry forget, that we are in business, right? We do care about people, we are compassionate, and we do what we do out of our heart, right? And most people, if you ask them why they went to aesthetic school, they said because they want to take care of people. So that is a big part of it. But something that is as equally important is, can you be in business? And in order to be in business, you do have to be a little bit competitive. And this is an edge. So what I've seen through the years, not only now that this program is in schools, the schools that don't have it want it because students are choosing the school with this program. And I've also heard from grads that employers are picking the person with this certification or training. So it makes a difference, and to me, it was about not including, just like you had mentioned before, filling a gap and not cutting out somebody because you did not know how to help them. As a trained professional, shouldn't we know as much or everything that we can about the skin so that we can help everybody that comes in to see us? So that's awesome. I love that. Have you seen, so we've really only had it in, has it been less than a year, I think. We just started it this year. What difference have you seen with your students and the community in regards to adding oncology into your curriculum?
Well, what I love about the way we do yours too is not only the amazing textbook that you've created, which is impeccable. I love someone that can write, and I love someone that can put together a nice manual. So that's amazing. But we do already have a lot of oncology patients come in, or a lot of people that are under chemotherapy or survivors, that it's been a couple years and they're doing really great. And now we can incorporate it into the Elite Spa. Our spa manager has our protocol of the facial we're doing, the Kanza wands, and all your awesome modalities. We've incorporated that when we do our trainings. And of course, COVID-19 has thrown a wrench in, bringing the clients back in, and we're going to get that up and going here shortly, bringing the clients back in for the oncology training specifically. But it's been very meaningful. And the way that you have, of course, done your classes and the way we've incorporated it here is just so meaningful for the students to see. They understand a lot more about oncology, and understand a lot more about cancer. They understand a lot more about how to treat those patients and just make them feel great, and they're not as nervous. So the clients love it, the students love it, and it's just impacted us in such an amazing, positive way.
We're back to confidence again, because I think when you know and understand how to help this client specifically, because as you said, this client is going to come to schools, this client is going to come to your location of business. So how do you help them, or how do you approach that? If you're trained, you'll know exactly how to do it. So that's wonderful. I love that. What do you see as next in the industry? What's the next big thing? Is there one?
Oh gosh, there's so many things, but the big thing that estheticians always need to remember as a basic fundamental thing is education. I always tell my students, to make yourself more employable, you can learn all the basics, you can learn all the advanced items. It doesn't really matter. Can you actually portray that information to your client in a way they understand? So practicing that over the years, being a part of calls like this, talking in your car to a fictitious client that isn't even there, talking through these things and making sure you're educating people. That's what it's all about, because we're here to give clients that boost of confidence that they deserve. So in terms of a future for aesthetics in general, I do see estheticians booming a lot more. Of course, as a school owner, you have a ton of cosmetology school owners that come and ask me a ton of questions. You really see a lot of cosmetology numbers probably more down, and aesthetics is definitely more up. People are interested in looking younger, right? They want things that are probably going to give them less downtime and quicker results. So there's constantly new equipment out there, new chemical peels, new ingredients to take a look at. And it's just an exciting time to be in the industry. The way we teach it today is a different way that we're going to teach it 10 years from now. It's constantly evolving.
Right. So not only do the students need to grow and evolve and keep learning, we need to be life learners, but you as a school has to do the same thing. I love that. I'm going to check the chat here and see if anybody has any questions. Do you guys have questions? Let's see. Estheticians, let's see. This is more in order to that. So anybody have questions for Miss Courtney? Let's pop them up into the chat. We had an instructor on. She said she had to leave. Her students were coming in.
I saw that. That's awesome. I love that there's instructors listening in. That's amazing. That's awesome. I wonder if there's a lot of business owners. Oh, I see that question. How long is your program? Of course, every state's different, but let's see. In South Carolina, the requirement is 450, you guys, but because we're nationally accredited, in case you really want to know all the ins and outs of this, accredited schools like to do several things for students, such as take down Pell Grants and be able to offer federal funding, right? So in order to offer Pell, which is free funding from the government to students that obviously have that need, you have to offer a 600-hour program. So ours is 600 hours, which is pretty nationally standardized. The cool thing about South Carolina, we're close to Georgia. So for example, I always end up having a ton of Georgia students come over. Their requirement is 1,000 hours, but if you get 600 clock hours in South Carolina, take the South Carolina boards, then you can transfer your license to Georgia with no issue. You don't have to go back to school for additional hours, if that makes sense. I find 600 hours to be a really good round number because there's a place where you want to help people. You don't want it to be too short, but you also don't want a program like this to take too long. People are ready to go to work. They're ready to serve their clients. We're here to do several things, and this is the school owner and me speaking. We do 3 things here. We do completion, licensure, and placement. So my goal is to get them completed, get them to take their license pretty immediately and pass their tests, and then get them placed. So that's another thing I do very directly with our students is I teach them all. So I do a ton of stuff here from our advanced teaching to I teach a lot of the first 5 weekers. I like to get them when they're fresh and new, start teaching histology on day 1, which panics them to death, but they love it. They like to learn all the ins and outs of keratinocytes and how it turns into a corneocyte and different ingredients. It gets them to understand why they're here, right?
Great.
But then, I love helping them with placement and helping them with jobs. And that's a big part of, what we do here within the 600 clock hours.
Do you get most of your students from South Carolina, or are you getting a lot from other states?
Well, everybody has a different story. I mean, if people are coming from out of state, usually they're here because they have a family member that lives here, but I have had a lot of people come just for the program. A lot of my young college students that decided they didn't want to go to college in their state, they moved here, moved into student housing, and they're living on campus pretty much or close to campus and coming to class. I've had people from the Virgin Islands move here because they just heard about us from coworkers. People from North Carolina, good grief, this young lady named Chelsea, bless her heart, she just graduated. She drove from Charlotte, North Carolina every day to and from. So that's about 4.5 hours in the car every day. Don't know why anybody would want to do that, Becky, but I appreciate it. And it's just such a cool thing to see people come here and want to be here. And that's why we want to always step up our game and provide amazing programs like you provide.
Absolutely. I love that. Are you seeing a difference in the age group? This is a question from me. From the people who are coming to aesthetic school now, is it still a younger crowd, a mix of a younger and a second career person, or what are you seeing?
So it's so interesting. You should see it around here. It's funny. We have, number one, a mixture of men and women, a lot more men. And I've been doing the school stuff here since 2012. So in the past 2 or 3 years, tons of men are coming. I've got a ton of veterans because we take, VA funding, but a lot of veterans that have worked with mechanics and done all this stuff, for years. They love the beauty industry and they're just ready to do something for them and change their career field. But you were talking about age ranges. We do have our younger folks, but I'll tell you what, we have a lot of women that love aesthetics as a second career and are coming in their 50s and 60s to class. I love teaching that age group because I'll tell you, it's easier for me to place those folks in jobs, to be honest with you. They've had career experiences, life experiences, and I'm sure you agree. It's just such a neat thing. And I love working with people that are professionals and, have can have an appreciation for where they are, for sure.
Right. Well, and they've probably been in other places, and they now know what they want, and they're super excited about it. I know that's how it was when I went back to aesthetics school. Let's see what we've got here. We've got some questions for you. How long is your oncology-based curriculum in the integrated program?
So we actually do a full focus on this for 6 to 8 hours a day for 3 days here at the school. We started with a 2-day course, but we kind of expanded it a little bit further because there's so much good content. And then we refer back to it. So Becky, I think you mentioned that some schools that you've been working with, they are doing a lot of this online stuff, which sounds amazing, but they were incorporating it in the beginning. We are doing slightly the same thing and catching them in their first 5 weeks. And instructor Angie oversees a lot of that stuff, and she's incredible. She's a huge advocate for your trainings and is making you very proud. I promise you that. But we love teaching at the beginning, and that way they can carry it out in the spot. So we can teach them in the beginning, and they can just start to utilize that information. So it's really ongoing, but 3 days of intensive for sure.
I love that. Okay, let's see. Somebody wanted to know product. What product? Where did I see that one? Product that you use in your schools and equipment. So what product lines and equipment do you use in your class?
So if I'm used to not talking about product lines, I'm happy to talk about it. Well, first of all, we've developed ever since last year, I've got my own skincare line that I love, Courtney Sykes Molecular Anti-Aging. But other than that, guys, I love a ton of different brands. I love Oncology. We use a lot of that in our medical stuff. I love Glow Skincare. For those that love natural stuff, I love Eminence, and Boldajar and I chat every time we're at a trade show. He cracks me up. I'm sure y'all been to his classes. And golly, what else? What else do we use? Image Skincare. I'm sure many of you use their line too. I try to bring in a lot of different things at the school because, like you, when I went to esthetician school, we used one skincare line, and you cannot just use one. You have to learn about everything, which is why their end of year project on the client care plans has to be ingredient based, not brand based. So that's one thing I could say. If y'all want to work on anything in quarantine, sit down and try to write out a care plan for evening versus morning routine for your client with just ingredients, and see if you can do that, because that will help you love all brands and kind of learn how to work with all brands that are clinical.
Yes, I am in total agreement with you on that. Let's see here. Let's see, is that a cosmetology license or aesthetics? So your school is an aesthetics license, right?
That's right, aesthetics only.
Okay. China wants to know, is it required for the esthetician to have a Derm Tech certified certification?
I'm not sure what that means, and I see Sheena is asking that question. I'm not sure what that means, but I am a part of different associations. I'm slightly familiar with Texas laws on this kind of stuff, but estheticians can only work in South Carolina no deeper than the stratum germinativum, right? So anything beyond that has to be overseen by a physician. So again, unsure of what you're specifically asking, but I am so on it with the compliance items, it's not even funny, and here's why. This year, I've had the lovely pleasure of being on the task force for our Board of Cosmetology. So another thing I would suggest too to everybody on this call, get in with your Board of Cosmetology. There's so many volunteer things that you can do and be a part of, and there's no reason why you shouldn't understand what the rules are in your state. And even surrounding states. And I've enjoyed going through all the laws and policies. We're updating all the regulations, and it'll eventually get passed by the State House this year. Everybody's working on other things, but it's been really interesting to see all that change. And to ask or answer your question earlier about the Master Aesthetics license, I do have a lobbyist, and I'd love to see that happen next year. There's so much going on right now. There are ways to make that happen, but overall, that would still have to be in our state under the Board of Medicine, actually, which I don't mind that so much. I've got some good contacts with our LLR. And in fact, this is an interesting little point too. Our attorney team here at Southeastern Aesthetics actually was able to get our school approved by the Board of Medicine in South Carolina to own our own medical records, which is a big deal. So many of you in kind of medical aesthetics area, shoot me any emails asking questions about that. I love compliance items. There's so many people doing this incorrectly. You have to have locked rooms for medical records. You have to have AED machines, resuscitative equipment, all this stuff that we have downstairs. But we are able to own medical records, and only hospitals usually, other than physicians, own medical records. So we love all these neat little niche things we're able to do over time. And that's really what's going to make your business stand out, what'll make you a better business person. Always shoot to do the right thing and be in compliance.
Right. Always beneficial to know what you're dealing with and know the rules. Does South Carolina require SDs to maintain CEUs?
Oh, yes. And I teach a ton of CEUs too. I've enjoyed doing several online, and I love going to Kiowa Island. I'm not sure if anybody has been there. I've got a CEU coming up there. But to answer your question, we have to currently do 12 CEU credit hours every other year, which is 2 6-hour classes. You can do 2 on site or 1 on site, 1 online. Currently now with COVID, of course, everything can be online, no big deal. But yes, they're actually looking to decrease those hours. And I'll tell you, Becky, as an educator and a part of the task force committee, I don't agree with that. And I don't know what you all's thoughts are on it, but we should never try to skimp out on education. Education is so important. Yes, there should be better CEU providers probably in other states to make it worth your while to spend your dollars, but nobody should ever cut CEU credit hours. But do I get to make all those decisions? No, but again, education is so important, and not every state requires CEU hours, but this is why you all are here, to continue to learn and build upon what you're doing.
Great. I really would love to see someday in the future a national standard, right? So that we all have the same amount of hours. That would be great. And for your initial basic, but then also require us to keep learning. That's how you stay fresh. That's how you stay relevant. That's how you stay safe. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons to do it. Margaret, she got into aesthetics when she was 48. That was kind of, I think I was 40, what was I, 42. I was the oldest person in the class. I had a cosmetology license already, but I wanted to go back and just really refresh and take a straight aesthetic course. And everybody was younger than me, but it was a lot of fun. I loved that. Let's see here. Margaret's on the chair for her board. That's awesome. Michelle was 51 when she went to school. That's great. And that's kind of what I'm seeing, which is why I was asking the age question, because I see a lot of people, women especially, but we do get men every once in a while too, but who are coming to this as a second or third career. Yes. Something they've always kind of wanted to do, or they've done what they felt like they had to do in their earlier years, and now they want to do something for themselves. So that's really awesome. All right, so let's, looks like we're done with the questions. If anybody has any other questions, let me know. Looks like we see a lot of people in there were second careers. I love that.
I love that. That is amazing. Y'all are awesome.
Courtney's email, guys, and you can also go to a website, right? And you have a Facebook page. You want to tell them about that?
For sure. You guys can friend request me at Courtney Sykes. I'm sorry. I just got married 2 years ago. You would think I would remember my new last name. And then on Instagram, it's the_aesthetics_instructor. But shoot me an email. I would love to talk to any of you guys, answer any questions. And I'm just so thrilled to see y'all's connection with Becky. That's an amazing thing. And Becky has an incredible training and just loves our industry. And it's good to know you. I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, and I appreciate you too. Like I said, I'm always so thankful and grateful when I meet somebody that has vision for a big picture when it comes to aesthetics. It's not just about, you know, money and getting a student or a client in. It's about the big picture of really making a difference in the world and making changes for people. So I love that. Thank you, Miss Courtney, for being here. Guys, here a list of our upcoming webinars. We've got Color Up CBD training next week. Then we've got Annette and Geraldine, who both work with either a cancer center or a nonprofit. You're going to hear their journey, their path, how they got there, what they do, the rewards of all that. We're going to talk about masks with Lou Martelli from Belmondo. He's going to share his sheet mask that he made specifically for oncology clients. And other masks, we'll talk about other masks as well that are good for your compromised skin clients or oncology clients. On the 26th, we've got Joni and Amy with Light Stim. They're going to give us all things light therapy and everything we need to know about that. July 3rd, there will not be a webinar that Friday. It's the 4th of July weekend, and hopefully we're going to be able to get out and go have some fun, right? And then on the 10th of July, we have Silva with Dazzle Dry. And she's going to come and talk about the nail portion because it's something that we haven't really spent a lot of time on. We're focusing on it a little bit more because a cancer patient definitely has nail issues. How do we help them? Where do we direct them to go? Where do they start, right? So you're gonna learn a lot about healthy nail care from Silva, who actually is a nail tech, and she has been doing healthy mani-pedis for many years. So completely different than what you're probably used to. And you will love hearing from her. Even if you don't do nails, you have nails, right? And you will love to hear this. And again, be able to refer your clients. Okay, as always, just a reminder, you guys can get all of these. You can binge watch them if you want. All of them, 10 will be on, 9 of them are up right now. This one will be up on next Monday. And you can go to the Oncology website. There's no cost or anything for you to do that. Request a permission because it's the professional side of the website, and then click on the member shop, click webinars, and you can see them all. So if you miss one, you can go back and catch that anytime you want. There's also demo videos there too. So if those who are on wouldn't mind doing a quick poll, just really quick, 4 questions. I need a little bit of information because we're moving into a different time frame. Am I going to continue doing these? Everybody has said yes, they would like me to, but maybe what days should we do this? So if you guys could hop on the poll button at the bottom and answer these questions, that would be really, really helpful. I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that. It's always kind of interesting to see who's on. And I'm asking them questions, Courtney, about the days of the week because aesthetics is kind of a different animal. I found that I get to track some things, analytics, and when people are viewing the online course, for example, the #1 day is Friday. It always has been since we started it. So that's kind of interesting. Just going to give it one more minute. Thank you, everyone. Oh, it won't let you submit. All you got to do is hit end. It should let you if you hit end, and it might be a setting on your computer. If you really want to tell me your thoughts on the poll questions, you can send me an email. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end that poll. It looks like most of the people are oncology trained already, about 70-30 here. Everybody thought 100% that this webinar was helpful and or inspirational today. That's great. Looks like Friday still is the winner for the day, and it looks like morning, so we might just keep it this way. And again, if you have to miss it because of work or something else in your life, you can always come back and catch it afterwards. Half of you have looked at the past webinars and half of you have not yet, so I hope you do. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. As always, be well. Take some time to be still this week. Make sure you're staying healthy, staying connected. I'm here if you need me for anything. Courtney has said she's available if you have questions for her as well. So thank you again. Have a blessed week. And I look forward to being able to see you in the future and give you a real hug, hopefully sometime in the next year, 6 months, I don't know. Okay, hang in there. Love you guys.
Guys.
Thank you, Courtney, so much for being here.
I muted myself. You're welcome, Becky. That was so much fun. Thank you for having me.